Welcome to Bigfoot Society. If you have Bigfoot activity to report from the same areas discussed in this episode, please reach out to me directly after this episode. And if you'd like to be on the podcast to discuss a personal Bigfoot encounter, please reach out to me directly at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Do you wish there was more Bigfoot Society to listen to every week? Well, there is now. If you become a supporting member over at Patreon, you get a special members-only episode every single week on Wednesdays, and sometimes even more episodes. Head on over to patreon.com/The Bigfoot Society. And now let's get on with the show. The following interview is myself talking to Lauren Smith from Nite Callers about what happened this prior weekend, June 2nd, 2024. Took my son on an overnight, and we had some events happen that I'm still processing through. I think it's important for listeners to hear this interview and to know that I do understand you all in a much different way now, and I'm very thankful for that. So without further ado, here's the interview of what happened this past weekend. Thank you for listening. Okay, so, and just to start this off, this is not going to be like a normal episode. So I have Lauren Smith here from Nite Callers, and she is going to listen to me vent about what happened this weekend, or I don't know, maybe some people call it trauma dump. I really don't know. And then if she has any questions along the way, she can definitely ask. But how do you want me to start, Lauren?
Just tell me, whereabouts you were and who you were with and kind of what you had planned for the weekend. That way, when we get to what happened,
all right. So have you seen Tate's documentaries?
Yes.
Okay. You know the two where it's the Iowa one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's the same area, which is a place that's in Iowa. We just can't really say where it is, right? And so my kid is old enough now that I asked him at the beginning of the year, hey, if you want to do an adventure in Iowa, what do you want to do? And he was like, hey, let's go on a Bigfoot adventure. I was like, oh, that's awesome. I'll totally take him to the spot, right? Because it just would work out fine. It's not too wild. That's all I can really say about that. So this weekend, we left Saturday morning, got to the place, and then it was going to be only a one-day thing, and it turned out to be an overnight thing. So, tent camping, all that good stuff. So that's kind of the background of what was going on.
So what transpired?
Okay, so I get how people get nervous about saying everything now. I really get that a lot, because there's some stuff in this where I might. So I'm just going to say it all.
Yeah, just take a deep breath and tell your truth as you experienced it, because unless somebody was there, they can't know what you went through. So let's just hear what you went through.
So, and I'm not saying like all of this is right either. So I've heard a lot of stuff when I've interviewed people, and sometimes I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'll just try that and see what happens. Right. So we're on the way to the area. This is before we get to the area. And I said, okay, I've heard a few people talk about MindSpeak in my interviews. So why don't I just try to reach out, see what happens, right? So I say, pretty much ask them, hey, can you show yourselves to myself or my son? And we have no negative intentions. Okay. So pretty straightforward. We get to the place. When we get there, and it's a long ways to get inside the remote wooded area, let's just say. And so we get in there, and there's dogs barking everywhere in the woods. And so I'm like, I don't remember dogs being this close to this area, which is kind of weird because I was just here last year. There's a gentleman. So we're in a camping area, primitive camping area, but you have to put in a registration in a way. And usually when you do this, the forestry workers show up really quick to check it. There's already a gentleman parked in a truck in that corner, and he had a big metal cage in the back of his truck. So me and my son, you know, you want to like show, you know, hey, this is how you treat people nicely and talk to them and stuff like that. So we fill out the thing, put the money in there with it. And then I'm like, hey man, how's it going? So we go over and talk to the guy. I'm like, hey, you work in the area today? And he's, no, actually and I can't even do the guy's the way he talked. He was from deep South Missouri. And he's, I'm here for the dog hunt. And I'm like, dog hunt? Oh. What's with that? And then it's starting to click. He's like, well, there's this big dog hunt going on where there are these hounds. There's about 30 hounds loose in the area right now. And so they're going to be everywhere. And the hunters are going to be coming through to try to track them down and to get the hounds back. And we're like, okay, this is kind of interesting. So we're trying to set up camp. All of a sudden, like, hounds are running all over the place, running through camp, like these big hounds with like spray painted numbers on the side. And I'm like, oh my goodness, get in the car. So I was more concerned about him. I was like, jump in the car. Yeah. And so like the hounds aren't going to hurt anything, but we're like watching them from inside the car, and like all of a sudden they start fighting each other. I'm like, oh my goodness. So we're jumping in and out of the car.
Meeting me, I would have just been like, I came out here to find Bigfoot, and this is the exact like perfect storm of what you would think would drive Bigfoot out of the area and like really not make for a conducive night of researching, especially if you're recording audio or anything, listening for sounds. Like you're not going to hear anything over baying hounds. So
exactly.
You and I had different reactions because I was been quite pissed.
You would have been out of there. So So eventually the hunters start showing up. They're beeping their horns like crazy on their trucks, try to get their dogs back for like hours. After 2 or 3 hours, they finally are out of the area, and we're like, okay, so we have camp set up, we have the tent set up, all that good stuff. We start looking around the camp, checking stuff out. We have to pick up sticks for the fire, all that good stuff. And I'm gonna say we start finding what some individuals would say is evidence, but I kind of say it could be misconstrued Bigfoot evidence, because I didn't want to be, the type of person where it's just jump directly. Like you have to analyze it stuff. Yeah. Like Mike Gann does and like you do and stuff. So potential footprint. It was not a footprint. It was the heel of a horse shoe. Okay. Stuff like that. But it was like, if you looked at it a certain way, it was like 17, 18 inches long, all that stuff. And there's like bent over sapling on the side of the camp that had like a tree break, or like it was broke off and then it was bowed over. Stuff like that. So that was kind of like I was showing him, hey, this is how certain people in the community would look at it this way. We're probably not going to view this as evidence just because there's not other stuff around it. So this is like 12:30, and I'm like, hey, maybe we should start playing, let's play some sounds. Let's see what happens, right? So I play like the Ohio howl in the Sierra sounds on a Bluetooth speaker I have. And there's a bathroom area on the edge of the campsite. So I'm in the bathroom, and while I'm in there, I'm like, oh man, if I hear my son outside say something like, hey, what's that? I'm going to go crazy and kick down the door and stop missing 411 to happen. Like 30 seconds after that, I hear my son say, hey, that's weird. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's actually happening. And so jump outside the bathroom, and he's like looking across the cleared area 50 feet and pointing. I said, what's up, dude? And I just saw something peek behind a tree. I was like, okay, well, what'd you see? And he's like a brownish black color, had a hairy head. And I was like, well, do you know what the shape of the head is? And he didn't use words, like, because he doesn't know the vocabulary, like he doesn't listen to the podcast. He's 8, right? but he made the shape of a conical figure with his finger. And I was like,
oh my God.
Okay.
Great.
And I was like, how high up on the tree was it? And he was like, well, he kind of pointed towards it, and we went over, and it was like 8 to 10 feet up.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, well, did it look like a person, or did it look like an ape? And he was like, kind of looked like both. And then as we talked more, he was like, well, I mean, I was just imagining it. And so at the end of it, he was like, oh, I think I was just imagining it, but he was kind of like, you could tell he was weirded out by something. Yeah. So we walked, and that could have been like first Bigfoot experience, right? I don't know. But we walked 20 feet into the woods from the tree line to that tree, which I was like, this is a really bad idea, but we did it anyways. And we went to the tree, looked around, didn't see anything around the immediate tree, but we did see like an area in the leaves where it looked like something had been scrounging around. Other people would say that's a footprint. I'm going to say it's probably something scrounging around, even though there was an area about 6 to 7 feet away. Something else had been scrounging around too, right?
Right. Do you guys, what kind of critters do you guys have there? Do you have hogs, armadillos?
I have to be a little bit careful. In
the general vicinity of, okay. So like here we have hogs and armadillos. And so hogs. If you see scrounging around, you basically think armadillos, hogs, possums, squirrels even will get, looking for nuts. They'll leave little, So
that's why I didn't jump to like, there it is. Right. No, it could be something scrounging. Okay. So then we went for a hike in the woods for about an hour or so, 1 to 2 miles, a lot of trees across the path because of tornado winds from recent, no tree breaks, no structures. We get back to camp. It's early afternoon, start doing tree knocks. I was doing groups of 3 at one point. Mm-hmm. So I hear a response knock of 2 from a far distance away. We didn't have the talk where it was like, if you hear something, don't freak out. And he freaked out. He was like, whoa, what is that? I was like, did you hear that too? And he's, yeah, there was some knocks over there after you did that on the tree. And I was like, oh boy. Okay. And it's the same area where the year before I had heard whoops from in my tent. Mm-hmm. There are normal bird sounds in the forest at this time. It wasn't super quiet. So dusk kicked in around 6:30 to 7. There's something weird about dusk there because it gets really dark really quick and the whole mood changes very quick, right? So it starts to get a little interesting again. So I'd been talking to other people at the same time. I know I was talking to you around this time. I was talking to some other people. This one guy that I talked to, he has suggested that a gentleman has suggested to him that there's a phrase you can say that is Cherokee, and it's, I think it's Oeo Sitanga, which is hello, great forest elder. You beat your chest over your heart 3 times and you raise both your hands. So I don't know. That was the first time I ever heard that. I was like, hey, why not? I guess he heard that from Daryl Denton. It was a guy named Harley. So after I did that, I was like, okay, feel great, feel cool. This is awesome, in control. However, 5 to 10 minutes later after that, my heart started racing like really bad. And I got like extremely scared of the situation. And I was like, we're in the middle of nowhere. It feels like I have to call someone, And I was like, I need to sit down and try to calm down. I wasn't even thinking of infrasound. I was just like really freaked out in the moment by what was happening to my, like how I was feeling. Right. So at the time, then my son started getting excited, moving around quickly, stuff like that, normal kid stuff. So then I got up out of my chair to go over to him to see what was going on. As I did, started to have the heart racing stuff again. And I was like, okay, this is really weird. So I sat down in my chair again to try to calm down. And at that point, things got really weird. It was a mixture of feeling like we were being watched or something's about to happen, but you're very out of the situation. You're like, I don't really care what happens right now. If something's I'm not going to try to stop anything. If it's fair, if you've seen nature documentaries, it's like the deer in the headlights, or like when someone's frog hunting and they shine the flashlight on the frog and the frog is just there, right? It kind of felt like that. So then
did you feel, so whenever you had the heart racing, I'm just going to jump in that I can, because, I've been a victim of infrasound many times, more times than I can count. Did you feel a pressure on your chest, like on your breastbone? Was there was it anxiety, or was it more just absolute fear?
It was kind of both. And I used to have really bad anxieties. It wasn't fully anxiety, but it was like a mixture. And there was definitely a fear, and there's kind of an anger, because like I've been in this situation, and when I was with the other guys, it was like, it's always fun. It's great. And now when I'm in this situation, I'm like, I don't want to be here. I feel like this is terrible. We're going to get hurt. I'm afraid. It totally changed the whole thing. And I was like, if this is what people are feeling when I'm talking to them, like what they're like, this is insanity, like
it definitely adds another layer to when you're interviewing people. When you go through it, you get another layer added to how you interview, because you realize you have a responsibility to these people. They're sharing possibly the worst moment of their lives with you.
Absolutely.
And
that was like, I just need to talk to from here on out. Like if someone needs to talk, I don't care what, and I've never been like this, but I know some people are like, it has to be a certain type of situation. I don't care. It can be, they saw Bigfoot at the circus. If they are like freaked out and they just need someone to talk to who won't laugh at them, which I've tried to always be that, right?
Right.
I get that, because I just felt the whole morning, this morning, until we drove away from the place, I felt terrible. I was like
it's very impactful.
It's super impactful.
When you got to the point, deer in the headlight, in my experience, what I've had is, I've had the fight or flight. Oh my gosh, my heart's racing. I'm terrified. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. And then it morphs into this extreme lethargy, like just, I don't care if it eats me. I'm just like, I don't even want to run. I don't even care. Like I'm still scared, and I know I should be scared, and it's almost, I've wondered in the past if it is a Bigfoot creature or some predator like that, if it's something that they can do to get their prey to be still, which is utterly terrifying when you're in that situation to have that thought.
Yeah.
But,
That's what I'm thinking, Lauren, because and the other thing I had in the back of my mind is, okay, these creatures had dogs perhaps chasing them through their territory for hours. And now they are just ripped. They could be mad. And we're at this point, Lauren, and I can't tell you, I'll tell you how big this area is off the air, but we're the only campers in this entire area. We're it.
So you guys had to catch the fallout of those hounds, because even if, let's say the dogs, I'm not sure the dogs would chase the Bigfoot, because usually dogs are pretty smart about, I'm not going to chase a predator that could rip me to shreds, but what if they were chasing the prey out of that area, and it might have upset the Bigfoot? Because I could see that.
Oh, I didn't even think of that, Lauren. That's really good, because there's deer everywhere in there. And what if they were chasing the deer away, and that would get them mad because they're like, I got to work more for dinner now.
Yeah.
So the way you explained it, where it was like, you get like the
very relaxed
hard stuff, and then you get relaxed. That's exactly how it happened. That's a great way to put it. It's exactly like that. Yeah.
So you were relaxed and basically a buffet at that point. So what happened then?
Yeah. So it's between 8 to 8:30, and my kid goes to bed early. So he's okay, time for bed. I'm like, all right, I don't care. Yeah, let's. So fine. So we get things ready. I'm still kind of dealing with not really caring a lot, but trying to care because I'm in charge of, it's a weird dichotomy, right? I still am wanting to protect my son, but it's like, there's the whole, I don't know if I really, it's just weird. And so, yeah, then we get in the tent and it's 8:30 and, just he goes to sleep right away. I'm up until 2:45, cannot get to sleep. And I don't have caffeine or coffee or anything. Right. I'm just like, I can't get to sleep. And, owls all over the place, coyotes all over the place, normal stuff for this area. I didn't hear any basic, Bigfoot sounds you would hear at night. The only weird stuff that happened is the tent broke. So like, how you have the big poles that go across, like the tension on one of the poles snapped it. And so this was at like 1 a.m. I was like, oh, this is it. We're done. I just freaked out. And I was like, whoa, easy. It's just the pole. It's fine. The other thing is there was a point where we got, and I don't know, I'm going to say it's probably off of the oak tree that was above us. There were some oak trees. But it was like something was thrown really hard at the area where the entrance of the tent is, like maybe acorn sized, but I can't prove it, right? Like it could have been something falling off a tree, but it was like the way it hit the side of the tent. That's kind of hard for it to do if it's falling off a tree. I don't know. I'm either way on that.
Yeah.
And then, I haven't gone through audio, but I finally just passed out at 2:45 probably. And then we got up. We were up like when the sun got up, when the sun rose, it was like, we just got to go. And we were out of that. We were probably packed up by 7:30. I was like, I want to get out of here. I don't know if I ever want to come back. Like I was in a bad place. So
right.
Talking all this out is really helping because I want to go back. Right. Like it's very,
whenever
very to go back.
Yeah, absolutely. When the fear recedes a little bit and the adrenaline, then you're going to have this feeling. Maybe most Bigfoot researchers, this is why we do what we do, right? We're actually adrenaline junkies inside. And you're going to have this regret of, I wish I had stayed later. I wish I'd gone and looked at this. I wish I had, gone into the woods and seen what was breaking sticks or whatever. So that's, something that you might feel. Just be prepared for that feeling. And if you feel it, that you can go back and safely try again. Or if you don't feel like you can safely do that, that's up to you. I was going to ask the tent pole.
Yeah.
So is it a newer tent?
No. I got it from it was an older model from REI Outlet and I'd gotten it for when did I get it? I got it last year for when we went to the same area.
Okay. So not really
super old. Yeah.
Because those fiberglass poles, you can break them with tension, but usually it takes a pretty good, they either have to be old and dried out to snap, or there has to be some pretty good tension put on them. My mother had an experience where she had gone to town. She left her tent and they were having a really active weekend there with, activity of the Sasquatch variety. Yeah. And she came back and it looked like something had grabbed on either side of her top of her tent poles and just snapped them. And the whole tent was just dilapidated at that point. And so I don't want to scare you, but how hard would it have been for something to reach over and then you wake up and it's already gone, or it's just standing there waiting or something like that? Or do you really
something to think about? I don't know. Yeah.
It would be interesting to, on your recording at that point of where it snapped, to see what you hear before and after, to see if it, also the, whatever hitting your tent, that would be interesting. And then you mentioned when you were texting me about stick breaks, you heard something walking and there were stick breaks loud. Also.
We heard a total. Oh yeah. The total of 2. And there was the one that was in the same direction that the 2 knocks. And then there was one that was behind us at a later time to the southeast of us. Actually, that would have been the same area where my kid said it would have been the same area as that tree.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think about it. It's weird. I don't know.
It's always interesting to have someone else there to corroborate what you see or hear. And when it's a child, a lot of people may not take what a child says. They'll take it with a grain of salt because, but to me, this is something that I say in my presentation all the time.
Right.
Children notice things that we do not. We go into the woods and we're thinking about our dentist appointment we have coming up, the laundry we didn't finish, starting the fire when we get back so we can roast hot dogs. Kids are like, that's a cool flower. I like that rock. Look, there's something looking at me behind a tree. Oh, hey, I'm going to go down this path. They have no worries except what they're seeing. And so they can notice things that we would never notice. And also, because kids are not threatening, they usually attract the attention of these creatures because they're not threatening. And honestly, I don't know if Bigfoot knows this, but who's going to believe them? If they say I saw a Bigfoot, who's going to believe them? They're not as threatening as mankind, obviously. So the fact that your child does not listen to your show, does he not know who his dad is? I mean, really. But the fact that your child does not listen to the show really does not really know about the Bigfoot, stuff like that, that's something to jot down. And I would have him honestly try to draw it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Get him some crayons and paper, have him draw what he saw. The human brain above the age of 7, whenever we see something outside the norm, we try to talk ourselves out of it not too long after. And so encourage him to draw what he saw and tell him, nothing. If it's weird, draw it. It doesn't matter. Just draw what you saw. I want to see what you saw, exactly how you saw it. It's not a big deal. If you don't remember, it's okay. If it looks funny, it's okay. Just, can I see what you saw? And
that's
just see what he comes up with.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Definitely. Yeah.
I will be very interested to hear what you got on your recorder. And I'm hoping that your recorder worked the entire night also.
I really hope so.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it died, but
that's the curse of the Bigfoot researcher. If you pull up to a place, there will be a noise as soon as you get out of the car because you didn't have your recorder going.
We did do that. We did record it because Chris Spencer is like, you need to do that every time. Like, you need to start recording. Yeah. This really, this helps so much.
And as annoying as all the dogs barking and everything is, be sure to listen in between the dogs barking, because you never know what you might catch in between all that chaos.
That's a good idea.
It might be a good time for them to be on the move because the chaos of all the dogs is covering it up. So
that's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that you had kind of a weird, wonky experience, but I do appreciate you sharing it with me. And selfishly, I'm really excited that you had that experience because, I know that you've been doing this for a while now, and I feel like not that you needed validation for what you do, but I'm happy that you have some validation on what you talk to everybody about. And then also, like I said earlier, podcaster to podcaster, it will bring another layer to your interviewing.
Yeah, I think I needed it to get almost a swift kick to be like, hey, dude, this is real, and like the people, this can mess with people, and you need to be aware of that, and you need to be aware of what you're getting into because. Yeah, this isn't going to be the craziest thing that I get into. This is going to be like the least tamest. So yeah, thank you, Lauren, so much for hanging out a little bit. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to hear when you go back or what audio you get. I can't wait to hear the follow-up to this.
Absolutely. All right. I'm going to stop recording.
All right.
Again, a special thank you to Lauren for coming on the show and facilitating that interview with myself. I did ask my son after this interview took place, I asked him, why do you think you imagined what you saw? And he did say, because it is so rare to see something like that during the daytime, which puts an entirely new spin on that whole situation. As always, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. Please take a minute to help out the show by subscribing on YouTube, making sure you hit the bell so you don't miss any notifications, and share the episode on YouTube with a friend. Also, if you're listening to us on a podcast, thank you so much. Make sure that you're subscribed, share the show with a friend. Really, it's all about sharing the show wherever you can. If you've had a Bigfoot encounter related to the following or know someone who has, please reach out to me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com or pass on my email. Here's the list. All right, I'm going to use this space this week to announce that I'll be at the Sasquatch Summerfest in Oak Ridge, Oregon as an attender. I won't be presenting or anything, but I'll be hanging out, trying to interview people that have had Bigfoot encounters. If you're from the Oak Ridge, Oregon area or surrounding and you've had a Bigfoot experience, please contact me directly, bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Also, Priscilla was nice enough that if you get your tickets through SasquatchSummerfest.com and use code BigfootSociety, you can get 50% off the cost of your tickets, which is a big amount. So code Bigfoot Society to get 50% off your tickets, SasquatchSummerfest.com, and helps out the podcast as well. A special thank you to all the Bigfoot Society Patreon and YouTube channel members. It's your support that helps keep the show going, and I extremely appreciate it. Here at Bigfoot Society, we're headed to the moon, and here's a current update about going full-time. So here we go. As of 5/22, you're now at 202 patrons out of 824 needed. That's 24.51%, almost a quarter of the way there, guys. Brings us down to 622 left to join the Patreon. So a huge thank you to Barbara, Gregory, Dana, Craig, Jeff, Steve, Ricky D, Norm, Megan, Dan, Daddy Chatty, Joe, Eber, Ike, Jules, Josh, Ryan, Todd, Nathan, Gabe, Bill, Lucky, Megan, William, Bobby Joe, and Inger for joining recently. If you want to join in the fun, you can join over at patreon.com/The Bigfoot Society. I'll see you there. And again, thanks for listening.
Her and I can get on here and we can tell our stories. Maybe there's somebody else out there listening that's too afraid to tell their story. Maybe this will give them the courage to come out and not feel so bad about it. Who cares what anybody thinks? I know what I saw. I know what's out there. That's all I care about.
Please let people know. Please let them know. If you ever see one of these things, you need to tell. Because if you don't, then shame on you. You know? Shame on you.